Hello, everyone. This is Noor Musa.
I'm Alana Travis.
Welcome to Confused Iraqi Season 2. In this episode, we have a very special guest. Our guest is a content creator, a production company owner, and he identifies also somehow as a confused Iraqi. Many Iraqis know this guest, but I don't know if Westerns also been across his content. Our guest is Lowi Sahi. And Lowi Sahi, as I introduced him briefly, he's a content creator, Iraqi content creator who didn't grow up in Iraq and who's currently based in UAE, in Dubai. And he's a father also. He has a production company that is actually, when I met Lowi a few months ago, he was telling me how his production company is producing documentaries on Iraq. And so at that moment, I was like, Lowi, let's do this. Let's have you on the podcast. And I'm so happy that he agreed to that. And we are doing it today. Lowi, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm very excited to be on your podcast. It does seem very interesting to me just by reading the name of the podcast because it was very appealing for me. I don't meet a lot of confused Iraqis. I meet a lot of Iraqis who have different feelings than confused, but confused is a very rare feeling for an Iraqi. And we can find it, of course, more with the generation that grew, the second generation, let's say, that grew in the West or in different Arab countries, and I feel I am one of them.
So Lowi, in the introduction, I was saying, and from what I first heard about Lowi, Lowi is a comedic content creator with very funny videos, and then you moved into creating vlogs, travel vlogs, family weddings and parties, and for me it was like, this is fun. This person is super fun. His videos are interesting, and then over a sudden, Lowi is becoming a bit more serious with his content, going to serious locations within Iraq, traveling across the country, discovering the situation, but then also being vocal about what he sees. So how does that shift happen for you?
Yeah, so I did start as a comedian. I guess it's a big part of who I am. I love making people laugh. And, back in 2015, we got these small applications that helped us record ourselves. And we didn't really know where these videos are going to go. And viral is where they went. Slowly I gathered an audience without really having a strategy behind it, because nobody knew you could be, I don't like the word famous, but be followed by people. And so I kept doing comedy because this is how I started. And the more you do comedy in any platform, on movies, on stage, in social media, and writing, comedy always wins because it's the easiest way to make people disconnect from their routine. I kept doing this, but my real background is advertising and storytelling. This is what I studied in Belgium. I lived there for 12 years. Before that, Tunisia, 7 years. This is where I grew up as well. And also before that, Jordan, and then before that, Iraq. It's a long story. So I always missed the storytelling part because I always felt as a comedian in the Arab world, you are sometimes perceived as someone who's not really serious in life, not smart, not intellectual. While it's quite the opposite. Comedy is a very intellectual form of art and performance. And I wanted to show that I'm not just the guy who can make you laugh. I didn't make laugh everyone, but the ones that I did. Then I transitioned slowly to daily vlogs. Daily vlogs had, of course, its own challenge. It's creating a piece of content every day. And this piece of content cannot be less than 12 minutes. Very high-end production for a YouTuber at the time. And this is where really the career shifted to something skyrocketing, because when you post every day on a platform, it becomes like an addiction for the audience and they get really attached to you. And in this form, I started to, let's say, share more of my own thoughts, personal experiences, doubts, success, failures, and this was new for the Iraqi culture, and I think for the Middle East as well. When I started, I was the second vlogger in the Middle East, so it was pretty new. Very inspired by Casey Neistat. I think most of vloggers are. But what it helped me do, you stop me if I talk too much. What it helped me do is to connect for the first time of my life with the Iraqis who are my age. So this was the tipping point of my relationship with Iraq. This was a coincidence slash accident slash surprise, because I spent most of my life outside Iraq, and I had this image of Iraq exactly like Westerns would see it. I only saw it on the TV, and maybe perhaps from the stories that my parents used to tell me, I built some images, but they were not very clear or positive. And so here I am, 26 years old, filming daily vlogs on YouTube and reading comments in Arabic. I'm not a very good Arabic reader, so I had to learn to understand my audience. And I saw a huge gap between my life and their lives. We're talking about Iraq post ISIS, so the country is broken. Freedom is almost non-existing. No hopes, no dreams. Their dreams were very, very basic. Like, I dreamed to go to the university, I dreamed to get married, like very basic stuff. And I felt really guilty that I live in Dubai. I got all the tools that I have when I grew up that they couldn't have access to. So I made it like a mission to cater for this audience and to perhaps give them hope, energy, fun, freedom, and also travel, because when your everyday home, your country is at war, the least you can do is watch someone else doing the things that you would like to do. So this was my mission for a year of daily vlogging, and I think this was a monumental moment in my career and in people's lives, because we really connected so much. Like, even today, 7 years later, people are stopping me in the streets of Baghdad, are saying, thanks to these days, we went through so many things, it helped us disconnect, it helped us believe in the future. And I didn't know at that time. To me, it was a very simple, basic, it was a piece of content that I didn't know would impact so many people, but it did. And I'm very, very happy and I feel very lucky till today. Now, the shift from this to the more serious content, I'm sorry, I feel I'm the only one talking. Is that okay? Yeah, okay.
It's great.
Okay, so
I wanted to say, please, we want to hear as much as possible from you. And
okay.
the audience won't know this, but Noor and I are just sat with our heads on our hands listening. I wanted to just quickly clarify something, because just before you continue, for listeners who may be trying to work out timescales, do you remember anything from your childhood in Iraq at all? And when you first returned back to the country, or did that come after the content? I just wanted to clarify that point.
So I left Iraq when I was 1 year old.
Okay.
So I didn't have any memory. I had only a few pictures of me and my toys, and that's it. So no memories at all. And then it's all stories of how our house used to be, our families, how so I don't really remember anything from Iraq. So going back to Iraq happened in 2021, just after I got married to also an Iraqi woman who used to live in Germany, now in Dubai with me, thank God. So this was my first physical connection with Iraq. And the strange thing is, I didn't feel anything when we landed. While my wife was bursting into tears, I was feeling like, okay, she's feeling something that I'm not feeling because she grew up in Iraq. And I felt a bit strange the first days because to the ear, it was something new to hear Iraqis everywhere talking in Iraqi, because I'm used to French in Belgium, Dutch in the Holland, English wherever I travel, but I've never really experienced a street full of Iraqis. So that was the first hit. Then I found it very different to the eye as well. Like you can see, it's not a country where the infrastructure got developed like the other countries. So it's like kind of a time capsule or a time machine, and you're kind of in the 90s still, even the old cars and everything. This was my first trip. So it was impressive to me because I didn't know I had so many people knowing my face. 2021 is just after COVID, so I was wearing a mask, a cap, and sunglasses, and people still recognize me maybe from my Iraqi nose. That's a very disadvantage we do have. So it was unique to me. Plus, I saw something that I didn't see in any country. I traveled so much. All continents, so many different countries. I've never seen such energy and so many young people walking in the streets as I saw in Iraq. So this really hit me, and I think it would hit anyone who would go there. You only see young people. So I'm not sure about the statistics. Everyone says that, but I'm not sure. Like I didn't really check. They say 75% of the population is under 30 or 25 years old, which is really, like, if you compare to Europe, it's quite the opposite. So this was the second hit. And then the kindness of the people and the impact that I saw in people's lives really made me want to go more and more. And every trip I went back to Baghdad, I fell in love with it more and more. Until today, the more I go, the more I fall in love with that city. And I'm not quite sure what is the thing that makes me go back, but I think it's mainly the energy. So you take a rush of adrenaline during your trip to Baghdad because everything is happening. It's going so fast. It's becoming more and more modern. We can see a lot of nice projects being built. A lot of brands coming in, a lot of investors from outside also investing in Iraq. I got surprised with a generation that speak English better than me, that understands art and graphic design and literature better than me. Because, you know, at some point you would think, and this is very arrogant, but you would think that because we lived in Europe, you know, we have an advantage on the other continents. But that's not really true, because today with internet, anyone can get educated, anyone can learn how to do the British accent. You know, I feel in Iraq it's trendy to have the British accent. So many people have it, and I'm jealous. But anyway, that's a different topic. So coming back to switching from vlogs to documentaries, the switch was very clear to me when I saw so many successful projects in Iraq not being showed in the media. And that was a turning point for me, where I am sitting in my hotel room thinking, okay, first of all, there are so many good stories to tell and to share to the Iraqi people in Iraq and outside Iraq, plus the GCC countries, the Gulf, and the whole world, because today I can subtitle my videos and everyone can watch and understand what we're talking about. Plus, as a content creator, it's a good business model because we are at the same time promoting that company or that project or that person. So this is when I started doing my documentaries. The first one got a huge hit. So we went from 60,000 views or 100,000 views average vlogs views towards the end to 1 million view with the documentaries, because it was suddenly something new, not really heard of in Iraq, and people got really proud to see that we have such projects. And finally, I can put all my skills in one piece of content, which is directing, being the DOP. The editing is very essential when it comes to documentaries. So this is how I started to explore more of Iraq, and the Iraqis also who live there did not know about all these projects. So we filmed the school, a British school. We filmed Laymuna, which is an app that delivers grocery, but at a very professional and wild scale. We filmed the first Iraqi cinema, which was a big deal for us. And the guy is very clever, and people loved that documentary. We filmed Zaincash, which is the first company who focused on e-wallet in Iraq, which is something very strange for Iraqis back 5 years ago, because it's a country that deals mainly with cash. So these documentaries are interesting for everyone to see. And more to come. I filmed the universities. I filmed a hospital that helps young kids to be treated for their cancer for free nationwide. So these documentaries are very interesting. I feel suddenly the channel became bigger than me. When it was all about my life, now it's more about the people who follow me and the people and their projects.
Amazing, Lowi. Thank you very much. Just one observation while you were talking, I was like, Lowi consistently is a storyteller and he cares about storytelling, but he is a positive storyteller. Only looks at the positive sides, try to spread positivity and hope. How much do you associate that to being Iraqi or just being Lowi? Like how does Iraq somehow influence that, or is just Lowi in general is a positive person?
So first of all, I am positive. I won't hide that sometimes I have my struggles and I have my doubts, and when you have a certain artistic feeling, you have to go through emotions of doubt and all of that. But when it comes to positive storytelling, I feel I learned something really important here in Dubai, and how the government is leading the media and how they are promoting the country and the projects. I feel if you focus only on the good, more good will come. It's so easy to focus on the bad. So today, if I go to Iraq and talk about the trash in the streets, everybody has done it. The media, the social media, the neighbors, everyone talks about that. So I'm not adding anything new other than negativity. But the more we can spread positivity, even if I never talk about anything negative, it might be subjective to be only positive, but this is my choice, because I feel if I don't do it, not many people will focus on it. There will always be bad in cities, crime, like the streets, how clean they are, the education, how bad it could be, the currency, the economy. But I will leave that to the media. And for me on social media, I would love to just be positive. But yes, it's related to who I am as well.
Thank you. I think what you do is really great, and I am all for spreading positivity and hope. And you made a comment earlier, which I think is worth stressing, which is that there are a lot of young people in Iraq, and a lot of people consume this content by and large also because there's a lot of unemployment, and there's a lot of people don't have access to necessarily fulfilling opportunities, and so that is also worth just stressing. But I wonder what sort of advice you give to ambitious young people in Baghdad when you meet them, or across Iraq, who, they want to make a change, they want to earn money, they are ambitious, and they want to support themselves and potentially families, and I guess maybe they look to you and they think, well, you're doing amazing, but you're also based in Dubai, and and I maybe you can talk a little bit also about why you've chosen to do that, and probably obvious to most listeners that life is more stable abroad, but what kind of advice would you give to young people who want a career like yours, and who can't necessarily leave so easily?
I would reply in two stages. So the first stage, the stage where young people in Iraq needed advices, I think we're over that. So this was back in 2016, 17, 18. You can feel that people were a bit desperate to just hear. They just wanted a direction, like what can I do with my life? And these are the type of questions that I used to read so much on YouTube, on the personal level and also professional level. So some people were confused about their marriage, about their social life, and some people were confused about their career. They just graduated and they don't have any opportunity. But there has been a big shift. I'm not quite sure why, because I'm not an economist, but the public sector was the big interest of the youth, and now they are more and more focusing on the private sector. And I think now that the private sector is booming, nobody even like has time to ask you about an advice, because there is business for everyone, there is an opportunity for everyone. And now when I go there, from what I see, now I haven't seen all Baghdad, but from what I've seen, I didn't see anyone who's looking for a job or
No,
anyone.
I think we have to say that there is mass youth unemployment in Iraq. So there is a big discrepancy.
Of course, maybe it's the places where I go, maybe it's the people that I meet. Again, it's Baghdad, it's not all Iraq. I'm sure it's not a sample of the whole country. Now, the advice I would give today, which is much easier than before, is today you can create your own opportunity instead of chasing a job or just now, before doing this podcast, I was editing the documentary of a guy called Muhammad Jamal. He was at the age 14. He was, Noor, you have to help me here. He was Hammal, which is the guy which is the guy who carries stuff from a truck to a store or from a store to a house. So it's a delivery guy, but without a car. He just walks. And this is considered one of the most difficult jobs, and they're not even paid to do it. And today this guy owns 35 branches of Viking Burger, and he owns also a high-end restaurant and a factory, and he just took a factory of an ice cream from Dubai. So this guy made it himself. He started to grow slowly, and he learned from other people, and he started his opportunity by taking a small shop. He made it a restaurant, and now he has 35 branches. I don't know if this story would exist 10 years ago, but today it can exist because the private sector is booming. So my advice is learn as much as you can. This is the fundamental basic is you have to learn at least skills or read biographies or see how others are doing it, whatever you're trying to do. And in any industry you're stepping in, you have to see who's the leader or who was the leader in this industry. For me, it was Casey Neistat for vlogging. Maybe if a guy is trying to make a car, the leading is Mercedes, is one of the oldest brands in the world. If you're looking into, I don't know, to make kitchens, the German brand Hacker is one of the oldest and the best. So in each industry, I would say just analyze and study who's the best, and then try to open doors, push doors. Life will not open up for you. You have to run, and you have to do it for yourself. But I think the overall vibe in Iraq now is positive and getting more and more positive. And even if it didn't reach all Iraq, if it started in the capital, it will spread all over the country, I hope.
Amazing. And I somehow see 2 points here. As an Iraqi, I do agree with you totally, exactly. 5 years ago, you wouldn't say that there are opportunities for someone to build a career and then build a business and their business to bloom. There is a stronger private sector, and there is work to improve on that. And this is good, and there are certain reasons for that. But at the same time, I do also see the struggles of maybe certain communities in Iraq, not necessarily maybe in Baghdad, but also certain communities that were impacted by the ISIS conflict or the southern governorates. And I think also somehow this is all tied into the Iraq overall policies around agriculture, a country that is agricultural country that is not really investing well or supporting that sector, or the oil sector not being really feeding well to the public, and still gap in services and you know, I don't know if you know, but I grew up in a country where I was expected to get a government job. Everyone is expected to get a government job, and this is what that system taught the public. So there is finally a reflection on that, and Iraq is somehow transiting from a socialist country to a capitalist country is not easy, and this is something that, as 2003 was forced on us, as the democracy was forced on Iraqis, this is also somehow it's something Iraqis have to deal with, have to think as capitalist country, even though that the system does not fulfill that through policies for. So I don't know if you met private sector who struggle with the laws and the systems and the financial tools that are available like to them. So yeah, I definitely agree with you that there's a massive progress in the last 5 years, definitely. But at the same time, I'm not sure, I'm sure you are somehow aware, but then it's not easy to interact with that struggle of the communities who went through the ISIS conflicts and what happened in multiple governments in Iraq, largely. So I don't know if you also can touch upon this, because still actually one very interesting question that I haven't asked. Where are you originally from, Iraq?
So just to build up on what you just said, of course, I think the advice should not be only for people to find their future. My advice is also to the entrepreneurs who have the option to hire and motivate and embrace the communities that you just mentioned. So today, if you have the opportunity to take people from Mosul, for example, for a certain job, do it instead of going to find them somewhere else, because they might need it more than any other area of Iraq. And I think everyone has a role today, and it's clear that we are growing as a society, and I think selfishness is not something that you can see in Iraq. So more and more I can see entrepreneurs focusing on building the team, hiring more people, and also catering to their families. So I hope this is where we're going. But of course, unemployment is a serious issue. I am not a sociopolitical expert, so I don't really have clear answers to that. But if through my videos, people can see that things are possible, then maybe that's the first step ahead. So for me, I'm born in Baghdad. My dad is from Basra, and my mom is from Suq al-Shuyukh, Diqar. So yeah, it's a small village of poets and very like traditional people and very like close to the heart people. And my dad is from Basra. Yeah.
Thank you for all of that. I think it's very inspiring, encouraging. I think, you know, there is also lots of exploitation in Iraq. So anything that can be showing, you know, a better business model or a better way to do things is so important. And I think it's what a lot of young people, from my experience and conversations with people, they're really missing good role models in lots of ways. So I think, yeah, you're forging a good path. Just going back to a point you made on content and how you sort of moved to more serious content, I have a question about the impact of your more political content on social issues. Kind of whether you can give us a brief overview to the audience about what sort of stuff you're making, and B, the impact you think that's had, who you're hoping to engage with, and yeah, the importance of telling stories about things which are happening.
Yeah, so the content I do is 15 to 25 minutes documentaries that are a bit more serious than vlogs, which is less about me, more about the people. In each episode is about a project or a person who has found success in modern ways in Iraq and who's impacting at least the city, one of the cities, or the whole country. So we're talking about big projects. We're talking about people who are like intellectually on another level because they are seeing opportunities that not everyone is seeing, but at the same time, they are helping the community grow because they're hiring hundreds of people and they are building them from scratch because, you know, we don't really have a marketing school in Baghdad. We don't really have IT school in Iraq. So all these people who come from usually from outside back to Iraq, they are also having this hat of being the educator, of being the professor, of teaching people what they have taught and what they have learned, in their past careers. And I think this kind of content is closer to the people, and it makes the street of Iraq more real to their eyes, at least more than what the government is trying to say or the traditional media is trying to do. And this is why the impact can be bigger, because suddenly you have no filter in the content that people are watching, and they are seeing something real and raw. And I think this is why our impact as content creators has always been bigger than governments plus traditional media. And that's something I really wish that we can keep because it's so important. And, you know, I think Noor mentioned something where everyone's dream was to work at the government and the public sector. And this was, to me, it was kind of a propaganda to keep people working in these jobs while they can grow much, much, much bigger altogether in a different sector and different industries. So I am helping this, let's say, it's not a cause, it's a very normal thing in any country, but I'm trying to help this sector to develop.
Amazing. And in generally across the world, we know that digital media is growing and people consuming more digital content. But I think for Iraqis, especially as you said, this generation, they are a bit more aware of the biases that certain media channels might have and how content creator might not have these biases. They just want to portray what they see and communicate something real. And this is something I think highly encouraged and appreciative for the people who take on themselves these responsibilities to do. And that's great. One thing to clarify before I ask this question, Lowi has a very cute daughter. I saw how she's stopping cars on the road video. I follow your content. And your daughter is being raised in UAE for now, and she's from 2 Iraqi parents. You also have Iraqi parents. And when you were talking about where your parents were from originally, I was thinking, have you had the chance to take your parents back to the country, see how they feel about the situation and the changes, hear their stories, and how you as an Iraqi parent, I don't know how actually you identify yourself. That is something also would be good to hear from you. But as someone who's connected to Iraq, how do you want to raise your daughter, or what kind of hopes and ideas you want to put in her when it comes to Iraq?
So this is very strange because it goes back to when we were kids and teenagers, and you know, this is when you really form your personality and your values. And to me, I definitely I was definitely lost when I was towards the age of 10, 12, 13, because, you know, at home, we used to have these Iraqi values and like we've been told what to do, how to live, etc. And then we would go to school next morning, and the set of values, they're so different. So I think I took the best of both. And I love how it turned out to be because you know, I'm an Iraqi, but with a very open mind, spirit, and I love modernity. I don't have any judgment towards anyone, any ethnicity, any sexual orientation, and I think that's something that will automatically translate to my daughter's education as well. Especially Dubai is a very cosmopolitan city. It's a huge melting pot, and you can learn from so many different cultures. Now, to the Iraqiness of it all, of course, we talked to Kylie, which is a non-Iraqi name. We talked to her Iraqi. So Kylie is an Iraqi little girl who's learning her first language as to be Iraqi. And back in the days, I used to say, yeah, my kids will speak French like I do, and we're gonna read French books, and we're gonna watch movies in Dutch, and listen to music in Spanish. And then I have this cute little baby, and all I do is talk to her in Iraqi. Maybe also because my wife prefers like to speak that language as well. So I didn't figure out who I am yet, so it's very hard for me to figure out who my daughter will be. But definitely, she will have the international education like I did. Education as in a set of morals and values, and I don't feel I really belong to a country or a culture, because I've taken so much from so many different cultures. Definitely now I am more and more in depth with the Iraqi culture. I'm learning more about how they think, what they do. Last trip, I had my leg crossed next to the taxi driver, and he's like, "Is this how they taught you how to live in the West?" I'm like, "Excuse me?" He's like, "Your feet is directed towards me." I'm like, "Yeah, because I just had a cramp, and I'm very sorry, but I filmed all day." And so thank God my friends were behind me. They're like, "Lowi, you cannot really do that. And we are sorry, Mr. the driver." And it was a whole like evening talking about these values. And I didn't know. So many things happen in Iraq. I don't know. Like one time there is a guy who offered me tea, and I took it with the left hand, and the whole restaurant stopped. Like even the music stopped. I'm like, "What happened?" Like, "No, you cannot do that. You have to take it with the right hand." Yeah, so you have to take it with the right hand, otherwise it's disrespectful. So yeah, all these things I am trying to learn, and I'm more and more in love with it. It sounds very weird because I spent all of my teenagehood trying to understand what Europe is, what French literature is, who Victor Hugo is, who Emmanuel Kant is, and I succeeded. And then now I'm leaving all of that, and I'm learning who my culture is, which is it's like all reversed. You know what I mean? Now going back to parenting, I think parenting should be universal. I think the world that I wish could exist is a world that all kids can have the same tools, can access the same level of education, comfort, food, sleep. These are the basics, but I think not everyone has access to that, unfortunately, and we need to fight for it. But also, I think every kid should know where they're from, but they shouldn't be really too much like religious about it. You know what I mean? Because the world is not going towards individualism. It's going towards like a joint society. Good or bad, that's another topic, but this is where the world is heading. So you cannot educate your kid as this is who you are, this is your country, this is your religion, this is your name, and this is the only things that you have to stick to. So this is my opinion again.
No, I totally agree with you. And the thing is, I think there are very nice things about Iraq when it comes to culture and music and art and history. So being Iraqi comes with very nice things to brag about and to learn and just to connect with, especially when it comes to music. For me, for example, I love listening to music from the 20s and 30s, like Afif Askandar and everyone else like that. And I feel like because I'm Iraqi, I can understand that rich music, and I'm very proud of it. And thank you, God, for making me able to understand and connect with such beauty. And I feel like this is a good thing to take from the culture, but there's so much baggage and so many dark sides to Iraq as well that you don't want to inherit, and it's very difficult to deal with that. So yeah, I feel like you're definitely being picky and this is how you should be as a parent. That's amazing. So when we met in Dubai, I was in a program, and that program made me realize something. So as an Iraqi, I've only studied abroad for 1 year, traveled a bit, but I've always felt like, no, I don't want to leave this country. I'll always be in Iraq. I want to support this country. I worked in the humanitarian sector for long. And then during that program in UAE, met Iraqis who live abroad, and it just comes to me that maybe I would be able to influence better on Iraq and have larger impact when I have more stable, stronger connections outside of the country. So it's just a thought that I had, but I somehow felt it liberated me from having to be in Iraq. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, so influencing people in a space and time where you are not living there or being present there is the story of my life. I spent 7 years, 6 years on social media, influencing and impacting a country that I've never visited, and making people that I've never met happy or hopeful. So I strongly believe that you can impact people not being in there. But then my story is very unique. It's content creation. For some causes or for some missions, you need to have a physical presence. But I feel if you can gather connections and people and energy to make a change in a country, you can, even if you're not in that country, that's for sure. Because today everything is accessible, everything is quick. And look at us today having a podcast in 3 different countries. So this, we are impacting people. This is one of the things that we're doing. Hopefully our listeners, I would love to know where they're listening from. But this is the beauty of what we're doing. So I encourage anyone to fight for what they want, even if they're not on the ground.
Thank you very much. That was really, really interesting to hear. And I just wanted to add one more thing, which is in advance of this conversation, a few guys told me, like, can you please tell Larry we're a fan, la 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 la. So I think it's nice to pass that on, and yeah, your content's helped lots of people. So thanks for that. And I guess my final question is, are you optimistic about the future of Iraq? You've kind of hinted that you are. I guess I'm quite interested in, the politics and also sort of horrific heating climate. So there are, really grim things on the horizon. What are your sort of thoughts for the future?
So optimistic, yes, 100%. Like now, when I go back home to Dubai, I feel there's something boiling in me. I want to go back to Iraq, and this is how I feel about Iraq. But I am not the right sample or example to give this opinion. I'm just giving it to myself because we spoke a bit about the horrific things that happen in Iraq. The generation that is now building Iraq, who are in their 20s and 30s, they've seen things that nobody else has seen. So I cannot today come, after all these problems went away, I lived in Dubai, a fancy city, and then I come and I say, oh, Iraq is doing amazing, let's go. I don't, this doesn't belong to me. So this belongs to the generation who really struggled to arrive there. So what I feel is, what I can say is they are optimistic. Like what I do is a simple exercise. In any taxi I step in, I ask them about the situation. And it's a very typical Arabic question, but I like to see the answers. My first trip, it was like 50-50. People were like hating, people were like very optimistic. And usually the old people were like very pessimistic about the future. In my last 2 trips, I would say every driver is optimistic. Imagine an optimistic taxi driver in Baghdad. It's like a miracle, with all the traffic, all the stress. So I feel I'm not the only one who who thinks Iraq is going towards the better, and you can physically see it. You can see the streets becoming bigger. You can see projects being built. And I would like to quote Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, the ruler of Dubai, who once said, when the real estate development of a country stops, the country stops. So now when we see cranes all over Baghdad and the country is being built, it means the economy is growing. And until the day we'll see cranes building, I will be always optimistic to know that we are going towards the right path. Now, is everything okay in Iraq? No. There are so many things to do, and we need to challenge the people. We need to educate employees more, give them more power and more tools. I can talk for hours, girls, so you have to stop me.
No, that was really helpful. I think, critics will say that lots of the construction is, money laundering, etc., etc. But I do take your point that there is physical progress.
To have a clear system, you have to start from zero. You have to start a country from zero. We are starting from under 50, like below 50, below 100. So it will take so much time. But as Iraqis, we're very emotional. If we see something like very little that could give us hope, we are directly very optimistic and positive and hopeful. Maybe as a population, we are fed up with the negativity, so we just want to see what's good and beautiful, even if it's something small. It makes us really happy. Like you should see when Iraq won the Gulf Cup. Oh my God, it felt like Argentina in December last year with the World Cup. You felt we won the World Cup, not the Gulf Cup. So yeah, small things make us happy. That's why maybe we don't really focus on the bad things.
Yeah, and definitely, exactly. Iraqis can be very intense people, for sure. I just had one last question for you to bring back the conversation to you, actually. So what is in the horizon for Lowi, and where do you see yourself?
So my wish is, in any way, if I could go back and live in Iraq for a few years, because my main work is there, my audience is there, my stories are there, and I feel the time is perfect for me to raise my voice on what's happening and the good things, and to tell more stories. Now, the difficulty of it is there's a certain comfort that you can get used to when you're outside Iraq, which is especially when you live in Dubai. Like being in Dubai, you can't even go back to Belgium. Like with all the services we have, all the modernity we have, it makes it very complicated to leave this town.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Plus having kids and getting married 2 years, and all of these things make it complicated for me to go back to Baghdad. But this would be one of my biggest wish now, to find a solution for that. And what's next is always trying to be a role model, because if I am a role model for others, it means I am the best version of myself. And this is a feeling that I always have, how can I be the best version of myself? And I think the camera translates this very much, because it's a direct way to have a feedback on who you are. It's you film a video, you post it, and you straight away see the reaction of people loving it, people hating it. And this is how I could totally say that content creation made me a better person, because I have to learn more to be able to share more. And that's what will always be on the pipeline. Sorry. I feel this was an amazing ending.
It's a great ending. However, I'm going to ruin it for you, because I just have a follow-up question. Do you feel Iraqis' stories are being told enough, or shared as they should? And what are your reflections on that?
No. We have millions of stories, and every day I'm sitting here in Dubai editing. I'm thinking of I should be now in Baghdad filming more stories, because you can't imagine the amount of success stories that you can push any door in Iraq, any store, any office, just ask them, how did you start? And this alone is a story, because you're not in Dubai or in London or in Hong Kong, where it's easy to, like, you just have an idea, you gather investors, you do a startup, and that's it. No, you have to start from zero, and you have to build a team with no real experience. And your team also doesn't have experience. So it's all like random. So I think we have amazing stories. I wish personally I could have 10 people like me competing with me to be the best content creators telling Iraqi stories, because one, it will elevate the quality of the documentaries, and two, it will help the country grow faster, because we are the ones putting the spotlights on all these things, and nobody else is able to do it, or at least not in the language of young people. The other ending was a better ending.
Thank you so much, Harry, for your time and
Thank you, girls.
your candor and frankness. And yeah, anyone listening, I guess, who hasn't heard or engaged with Lowi's content, head to YouTube. I believe that's the biggest platform. Got like 2.5 million followers. So I have to check out your stuff, your latest stuff. Yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me, and wish you all the best with your podcast. It's definitely very interesting, and thank you for your time. And I want to say thank you to whoever is listening to this. Please make sure you connect with us. If you have heard this episode, just write us a message on Instagram or whatever you want to, maybe on Threads, now that everyone is on Threads. And I would love to hear your feedback, and let's connect.